Well, have you ever wondered how you access the web pages that you do almost every single day? Good everyone, it's me Hari from AGM Web Hosting. Today in this video, I'll be explaining to you about how does DNS works behind the scene and what DNS caching actually is. Okay, let's not waste any more time and let's get to it. If you have ever noticed when you type a domain name on your web browser's address bar, the pages appears magically, boom. But how does that actually happen? Thanks to domain name system. In short, DNSC. Unlike human who communicate with names, computer doesn't understand website name like google.com, youtube.com, and asiamwebhosting.com. Instead, they communicate using four set of numbers called IP addresses such as 42.126.161.287. So now imagine trying to remember all those numbers. It will be impossible to remember all of them. So that's why we have DNS. It translates those easy to remember website names, agmwebhosting.com, into those complex IP addresses, as you can see here, right? So when you type google.com on your web browser, so DNS looks up the corresponding IP addresses for you from all your registered IP addresses. So browsers then use those IP addresses to communicate with the web server to access that website information. Now let's understand how do DNS servers resolve a DNS query. So in a typical DNS query without any caching, if there is no cache in the web browsers and also in the DNS resolver, then there are four DNS servers that work together to deliver an IP addresses to the client. So those four DNS servers are DNS resolvers, also known as recursive resolver. Second one is a root DNS server. Third one is TLD DNS servers, and the fourth one is authoritative name server. Now, when you type a domain name into your web browser, then the whole DNS lookup process begins. That happens in a very fraction of seconds. So, but let's get deeper into it. So, both the operating system and browser first looks that DNS query if the IP is located in locally. So if that is not stored locally, then the DNS resolver must be asked. Once the locally cached DNS records have been checked and not found in the web browser, then the web browser asks the resolver. The resolver is usually our internet service provider. If it first checks its own cache to verify if the information is not already stored locally, right? So if it's not there, then it goes on to ask the root server. The root server is the first step in resolving the human readable domain names like agmwebhosting.com into complex IP addresses. This is the first step here. The resolver will not get the required information as there is not the required information, but what does root server provides? So it tells the resolver where the top level domain DNS servers are for the particular .com domain. The resolver then stores the information for the later purpose. So the resolver goes to ask the TLD DNS server the IP address of the particular website. Although the TLD server also cannot provide us the required information, they know where to route our request to. The TLD servers provide a resolver with a list of name servers for that particular website. Again, the resolver stores this information also for the later use, right? So finally, now that the resolver knows what the authoritative name servers are, it can query these name servers and retrieve the required IP information. The authoritative name server contains all the required information regarding the particular domain. Now that the resolver knows the particular IP of the inter domain, so domain name, it will cache it for later use. At this point, the IP is delivered to our web browser where it is locally cached as well, right? So the web browser then passes those IP addresses to communicate with web servers to access the website information. So this is the entire working of our particular DNS lookup. So now that we have understood what exactly DNS is and how does it work, let's understand what DNS caching means quickly. Now imagine once you visit your favorite website youtube.com, like you visit those websites every day, it will be pretty slow if your computer had to ask all those DNS servers for the IP addresses every single time, right? So that's why DNS caching comes into play. Think of it like a shortcut. When the DNS resolver finds the particular IP address, it stores it in a special place called a cache memory. So the next time you visit youtube.com, your computer checks the cache first. If the IP address is not there, it grabs it right away, skipping all those extra steps, right? So this makes website load super fast. So it's like remembering a phone number you called recently, so you don't have to look it up again. So it's all about speed and efficiency. So now that I believe you have learned something interesting about how does DNS server resolves DNS query and how DNS lookup process works and what DNS caching means. So thank you for watching. till the end of this video. See you next time. Bye bye.